Submarines are the ultimate predators of the sea, silent, deadly, and designed to disappear without a trace. During World War II, hundreds prowled the oceans, but for a crew, the greatest fear wasn't just being sunk, it was being captured. For the Royal Navy, surrendering a submarine was unthinkable, almost impossible, yet in war, the impossible sometimes happens. This is the story of HMS Seal, the only British submarine ever captured at sea. It's a tale of courage, disaster, and the unpredictable nature of war. In May 1940, as Europe burned and the German war machine advanced, HMS Seal and her crew sailed into history. Their mission would end not in glory, but in a way no one could have foreseen. The fate of nations sometimes hinges on a single crew trapped beneath the waves. This is their story. To understand HMS Seal's fate, you need to know the world she entered. By May 1940, Germany had invaded Norway and Denmark, turning the North Sea and the Kattegat into a naval battleground. The Kattegat was Germany's maritime lifeline, vital for iron ore shipments and naval operations. For Britain, disrupting this route was crucial, but the waters were shallow, mined, and heavily patrolled. Submarine missions here were nearly suicidal. The men aboard lived in cramped, tense conditions, always one mistake from disaster. Every creak, every sonar ping meant danger. Yet, the Admiralty needed chaos sown in the Kattegat. Operation DF7 was born. HMS Seal would lay mines deep in enemy waters. The risks were enormous, but the potential reward was greater. The stage was set for a legendary mission. HMS Seal, a Porpoise-class mine layer, was built for danger, armed with torpedoes and 50 deadly mines. Unlike most submarines of her era, Seal was designed specifically for the hazardous task of laying mines in enemy waters, a mission that demanded both precision and courage. Her sleek hull concealed not only the latest in British naval engineering, but also the hopes of disrupting the enemy's vital supply lines. Her crew of 60, led by the resolute Lieutenant Commander Rupert Lonsdale, prepared for a mission deep into enemy territory. Each man knew the risks, capture, death, or worse, yet their determination never wavered. They checked and rechecked every system, every piece of equipment, knowing that a single oversight could spell disaster for all. Their objective was clear and perilous: lay mines on the main German shipping route, a lifeline for the Reich's war machine. By sowing these deadly obstacles, they aimed to cripple enemy logistics, sink supply ships, and force the Germans to divert precious resources to mine-sweeping operations. On April 29, 1940, Seal slipped quietly out of Immingham, England, into the cold, gray expanse of the North Sea. The departure was somber, each man acutely aware that he might not return. The submarine vanished beneath the waves, leaving behind only ripples and anxious families. The journey was tense and nerve-wracking, diving by day to avoid enemy aircraft, surfacing by night to recharge batteries and take in fresh air. Every sound, every vibration could signal danger. The men lived in a world of shadows and whispers, always alert for the telltale ping of enemy sonar or the distant thrum of patrol boats. The crew worked in near-total silence, each man focused on his task. In the cramped, dimly lit control room, orders were given in hushed tones. Every movement was deliberate, every action rehearsed. The pressure was immense, but discipline and training held them together. On May 4th, under the cover of darkness, they finally reached their target. The tension was palpable as the submarine crept into position, every man at his station, hearts pounding in anticipation. Laying mines was a slow, methodical, and incredibly dangerous process. One mistake could mean instant death for everyone aboard. Each mine had to be armed and released with utmost care, the crew working in perfect coordination as the deadly cargo slipped silently into the black water. But the crew performed flawlessly, their training and nerves of steel carrying them through. Relief and pride mingled as the last mine was set, knowing they had struck a blow against the enemy. The mines were set. The first part of the mission was a resounding success. The crew recorded their achievement in the log, but celebration was brief. Danger still lurked all around. Now they faced the most perilous challenge of all, escaping home through waters teeming with enemy ships and aircraft. Every mile would be a test of skill, luck, and endurance. The enemy was everywhere, and the sea itself was unforgiving. Storms battered the hull, and the ever-present threat of detection kept nerves stretched to the breaking point. Their ordeal was just beginning. The fate of HMS Seal and her brave crew now hung in the balance as they steeled themselves for the desperate journey home. With their deadly cargo delivered, the crew felt a surge of relief. The tension that had gripped every man on board seemed to ease, if only for a moment. They had completed their dangerous mission, and for a brief time, laughter and quiet conversation returned to the cramped quarters. The men allowed themselves to hope that the worst was behind them, and thoughts of home flickered in their minds. But as they navigated home, German patrols forced them off course and into uncharted waters. The sea outside was hostile, patrolled by enemy ships and aircraft, and every sonar ping or distant explosion sent a chill through the steel hull. The captain ordered silent running, and the crew moved with practiced precision, knowing that a single mistake could mean disaster. The submarine crept through the darkness, its crew straining to hear any sign of danger. At 2:30 a.m. on May 5th, disaster struck. A massive explosion rocked the submarine. The shockwave hurled men from their bunks and sent equipment crashing to the deck. Alarms blared, and the vessel shuddered violently as the crew scrambled to understand what had happened. In an instant, the sense of safety was shattered, replaced by confusion and fear. SEAL had hit a mine. The deadly device hidden beneath the waves had found its mark. The explosion was deafening, echoing through the steel hull and leaving a gaping wound in the submarine's stern. The crew knew immediately that their situation had turned from dangerous to desperate. The blast tore open the stern, flooding compartments and plunging the sub into darkness. Water rushed in, shorting out electrical systems and leaving the men in pitch blackness. The cold, oily seawater rose quickly, and the crew fought to close hatches and stop the flooding, but the damage was severe. Panic threatened to take hold as the submarine groaned and listed. The vessel began an uncontrolled dive, settling on the seabed, stern buried in mud. The impact was jarring, throwing men and equipment about. The submarine came to rest over 100 feet below the surface, entombed in the cold, silent darkness of the sea. The crew was now trapped, their only link to the world above severed. Inside, chaos reigned. Damage control teams sealed off flooding, but the engines were dead. Men worked by the dim glow of emergency lights, desperately trying to contain the damage. The engine room was silent, the heart of the submarine stilled by the blast. Every man knew that without power their chances of escape were slim. Trapped 100 feet down, the crew faced freezing temperatures, foul air, and dwindling hope. The cold seeped into their bones and condensation dripped from the walls. The air grew thick with the smell of oil and fear, and every breath became harder to take. The men huddled together for warmth, their faces etched with worry. Lonsdale and his officers worked to restore order, but the situation was dire. The captain's calm voice cut through the confusion, issuing orders and reassuring the men. He knew that discipline and teamwork were their only hope. The officers moved among the crew, checking on injuries and encouraging everyone to stay focused. The submarine was crippled, unable to move, and deep in enemy waters. Their position was perilous. Any attempt to surface could attract enemy attention, but staying hidden meant a slow suffocation. The men understood the gravity of their predicament. They were stranded, surrounded by hostile forces with no way to call for help. Every minute, the air grew worse. Carbon dioxide levels rose, making it harder to think clearly. The crew rationed their oxygen, moving as little as possible to conserve precious air. Some men donned emergency breathing masks, while others simply waited, hoping for a miracle. The men were exhausted, but discipline held. Training and camaraderie kept panic at bay. Even as fatigue set in, the crew followed orders, maintained their posts, and supported one another. In the face of overwhelming odds, their resolve did not waver. Their fight for survival had only just begun. The clock was ticking. Every second brought new challenges, and the men of the SEAL knew that their fate hung in the balance. In the darkness, hope flickered. But the struggle for life beneath the waves was far from over. For 10 hours, the crew battled to survive on the seabed. Air was running out and the cold was biting. Escape suits offered little hope in enemy waters, their only chance repair enough to surface. Engineers worked in darkness, hands numb, trying everything to restart the engines or blow ballast. Nothing worked, until a desperate plan emerged. Using compressed air and the forward hydroplanes, they tried to lift the bow and dig the stern free. Inch by inch, the submarine rose, finally breaking the surface, almost vertical. The hatch burst open. The crew gasped for air. Relief was short-lived. They had surfaced in daylight, in the heart of the Kattegat. German aircraft circled overhead. The submarine was crippled, unable to dive or fight. The enemy had found them. They were trapped, exposed, and out of options. The morning sky over the Kattegat was suddenly filled with the roar of German aircraft engines. Without warning, waves of enemy planes swooped down, unleashing a hail of bullets and bombs. The helpless crew of the SEAL scrambled desperately for cover on the exposed deck, ducking behind whatever protection they could find as the planes strafed the submarine with relentless fire. The chaos was deafening, the air thick with the acrid smell of gunpowder and burning metal. Commander Lonsdale, refusing to surrender without a fight, ordered his men to man the deck gun. In a moment of hope, they swung the weapon toward the attacking planes, but disaster struck. The gun jammed after only a few shots. The crew's last chance to defend themselves was gone, leaving them exposed and vulnerable to the enemy above. Suddenly, a canister tumbled from one of the German planes, landing with a thud on the battered deck. Inside was a stark message: surrender immediately, or be destroyed by the bombers circling overhead. The threat was clear and chilling. There would be no mercy if they resisted. Lonsdale, determined to deny the enemy their prize, ordered the crew to scuttle the submarine. Men rushed below, working frantically to set charges and open valves, but the damage from the attack was too severe. Critical systems were destroyed, and the SEAL stubbornly refused to sink beneath the waves. The vessel, battered and broken, remained afloat, a silent, immobile target on the open sea. The crew could do nothing but watch as their home and weapon of war became a sitting duck, unable to dive or escape. With German bombers circling ever closer and no way to fight back or flee, Lonsdale faced an agonizing decision. The weight of command pressed down on him. Should he risk the lives of his men in a hopeless fight, or surrender to save them from certain death? In that moment, Lonsdale remembered his duty was not just to his country, but to the men who served under him. Their lives were in his hands, and he could not sacrifice them needlessly. With a heavy heart, he gave the order: raise the white ensign in surrender. The flag, a symbol of British naval pride, now signaled their defeat and hope for mercy. Soon, a German naval trawler appeared on the horizon, drawing closer with each passing minute. Armed sailors boarded the stricken SEAL, their weapons ready, their faces grim. The British crew, exhausted and defeated, could only watch as their submarine was taken over. The weary men were ordered onto the German ship, their ordeal at sea replaced by the uncertainty of captivity. They left behind the SEAL, the vessel that had been their home and shield, now in enemy hands. For the first and only time during the entire Second World War, a British submarine was captured at sea. The event was unprecedented, a bitter moment in naval history. As the SEAL, now flying the German naval flag, was towed away, the captured crew watched in silence. Their submarine, once a symbol of British strength, faded into the distance under enemy colors. Their desperate struggle for survival at sea was finally over. Relief mingled with sorrow as they realized their fight was done. But a new ordeal was just beginning. As prisoners of war, the men of the SEAL faced an uncertain future behind barbed wire, far from home. The impossible had happened, and their courage would now be tested in captivity. For the Germans, capturing HMS SEAL was a major intelligence victory. The submarine was towed to Kiel, where engineers studied every detail: engines, periscopes, mine-laying systems. They hoped to use her as a training vessel, renaming her UB, but repairs proved difficult. British machinery was unfamiliar and unreliable. UB never became the asset the Germans hoped for, spending most of her time in dock. As the war turned, resources ran out. In May 1945, the Germans scuttled her to prevent recapture. The SEAL's journey ended, a strange, lonely footnote in naval history. While the Germans studied their prize, the crew faced a new battle as prisoners of war. Interrogated for secrets, they gave nothing but name, rank, and number. Officers and men were separated, enduring years of hardship in POW camps. Lonsdale faced criticism for surrender, but a secret inquiry at Colditz cleared him completely. The crew endured 5 years of captivity, forging unbreakable bonds. Liberated in 1945, they returned home as heroes, not failures. Lonsdale received the Distinguished Service Order for his leadership. Their resilience became part of the HMS SEAL legend. HMS SEAL's story stands alone in Royal Navy history. No other British submarine was ever captured at sea. It was a perfect storm of bad luck, mechanical failure, and geography. The crew's ordeal was a testament to human endurance and leadership under impossible circumstances. Lonsdale's decision to surrender saved lives, a choice of moral courage, not cowardice. The SEAL's capture was a blow to British pride, but its true legacy is the human drama beneath the waves. It's a story of survival, resilience, and the razor-thin line between disaster and deliverance. The fate of HMS Seal reminds us that war is shaped by chance, courage, and the choices of ordinary people. In the cold waters of the Kattegat, a legend was born, and it continues to inspire us today.